Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't care if you're here in Columbia at 107.5 The Game, Florence 100.5 The Game, Myrtle Beach 100.3 The Game. We appreciate you no matter where. And obviously, the spring game on Saturday. We'll talk a little bit about it.
Just a little bit. I've gone ahead and deemed today as Overreaction Monday, because we're going to look at the spring game and we're going to believe that it's going to tell us everything about this team, which means the defensive line, the defensive front is going to be the most dominant force in all of football, and the offensive line is not going to be able to stop anyone. That's
exactly right. And Lenore Sellers, fantastic. Wide receivers, don't know yet.
We saw some good things from Bennett. I'll say that much.
He had one nice catch.
Larverdane had some catches. And here's the thing. I brought this up earlier. The offense was as vanilla gets.
That's what I was going to get to.
I don't think they ran anything more than like 8 yards downfield when Sellers was in there on offense. So didn't really get a good glimpse into what this offense was going to be.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Look, when's the next game?
131 days away, actually.
So we got 131 days to talk about this one, which we will. And look, I know that because we get to see actually stuff for our eyeballs,
sure,
that we're going to take these things as end-all, be-all, finality, this is it, this is that. Oh, that guy sucks, that guy's fantastic. Lenore Sellers going to win the Heisman. Well, oh, my God, this offensive line is a disaster.
We live in a world of instant gratification.
Yes.
And if you were not instantly gratified by what you saw on Saturday, you're instantly frustrated, and you're wondering what the problem is.
And that's the thing. Look, the offense was store-brand vanilla. Store-brand vanilla ice cream, the one that just says in black letters vanilla.
Yeah, it's also the one that's at the very back of the freezer that might be a little bit expired that you probably don't want to eat anyway.
Oh, it's that one, or it's on special. It's for sale because they pushed it up front from the back,
and it expires tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it already kind of smells a little funny.
Yeah, and it's not, when you open it, it's a weird color yellow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that. That doesn't look.
Yeah, that's not vanilla. So, and the edges, you got the edges going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was what you got Saturday night.
It's Timmy's birthday party. I don't have time to buy any more, so buckle up, kids.
Suck it up, Timmy. You're getting that pet donkey. Be happy. So that's what it was Saturday night. And we forget that as you start, like, you're told that about 1 million times.
Sure.
And we played the cut from Dow at least 500,000 times. But then when you start watching the game, you forget all that, right?
Right.
You just do. It's human nature. And really, you got a very vanilla offense. Didn't throw the ball down the field a ton. Plus, let's keep this in mind that you have a bunch of starting quarterbacks that combined don't have a whole lot of career starts.
Right.
So you got to also understand that too. And you're also splitting up your offensive line. That's the one thing we got to remember, too, with these offensive line conversations is they split up the offensive line. It's not like, okay, the ones are going to start for one team and the twos are going to start on another team. So there were guys split up all over the place. And, again, Marquis Anderson's back locked up right before the game. So there's a lot of stuff, and no one's making excuses. Look, the defensive fronts won on Saturday. They just did. Hopefully that means the defensive fronts are going to be good. That's the weird thing about a spring game. Man, that defense looked good, that front seven or front eight or front six. Well, the offensive line's in trouble.
Right.
And I think defensively, they seem like they've got a lot more going on than we saw last year. Or the last 2 years, to be fair. But we'll find out. I like the depth of the defense on the first two levels.
Sure.
They've got experienced guys in there, guys who have been productive in some way, shape, or form on the collegiate level. I tell you, Goodwine, I just was like, and again, you're coming from Alabama, you're a top 100 prospect coming out of high school, so obviously you're no schlub, but Goodwine did some nice things during the spring game where you're like, you stopped looking for his number. In the beginning, you were like, oh, that's Goodwine. And then you just knew who it was because he was popping.
I was going to say, people got very familiar with the number 44 on defense on Saturday, and rightfully so. And, it definitely looks like that dude, which, again, when you think about it in hindsight, it's like he was a four-star guy and Nick Saban warned him. He must be pretty good. But when you don't have that production to go off of at Alabama necessarily, then you kind of wonder, okay, what is the real story behind this guy? And, again, for what we saw on Saturday against an offensive line that isn't necessarily cohesive to what we're going to see in the fall, looked great, which, again, is encouraging for his side at least.
Sure, and that's where you get the hope, because we said this all the time. preseason football games in the NFL, spring games in college football, they're about building hope.
Yeah,
That's
totally
what you're looking for. And right now, a ton of hope has been built for Dylan Stewart, who, I won't lie to you, I know it's just a spring game. It's basically a practice with 30,000 people in the stands. But Dylan Stewart showed you why he was a 5-star edge recruit. He was all right, man.
And he got a sack, had a couple tackles for losses, almost took the handoff at one point. To me, what really stood out to me was his explosion off the line.
Mm-hmm.
That he obviously has the size, the athleticism that he showed to be able to get off the blocks, to be able to get where he needed to go, to get in that backfield and wreak havoc the way that he did. Yes, it is a spring game, and the guys he was going up against may not necessarily be the caliber of the SEC talent he's going to see come fall, but I mean, he checked all the boxes for me up to that point, at least.
I mean, you've got to be excited for his potential watching that spring game. Just look, is he still a work in progress? Sure. Is he going to lead the country in sacks? No. But you saw him off the edge. Like you said, there was explosiveness. There was power, used some leverage, blew up some plays, misdirected some plays. I mean, he's had a nice night. Brian Thomas, I think there was 3 of them. But, he also had a good spring game last year, too.
Sure.
So you hope that his development from last year to this year, we're seeing a bit of it as what he did in the spring game. That's your hope.
And Edge as a whole looked solid on Saturday night, which, again, that was one of the areas that we really wanted some hope instilled in this team once again, because last year they were basically ghost out there. There were a lot of games where you didn't know that the Edge was setting any kind of pressure outside of Jordan Strong getting the occasional sack. But we saw it on Saturday night with Dylan Stewart, Brian Thomas Jr., Kyle Kennard was out there making some plays. Gilbert Edmond made some sacks as well.
Yeah,
and
I like Gilbert Edmond's new sack dance.
Yeah.
I'm digging the sack dance from Gilbert Edmond. That was good.
So again, you're seeing those guys have an impact, which, again, is a lot more than you can say than what they did last fall.
Yeah.
Now, again, translate that over into playing against the SEC, and then we'll feel a little bit better about it. But from what little you can glean from Saturday night, you should feel good about the edge spot.
Yeah, and then slipping back to Lenore Sellers, I mean, he showed you enough things to get you all giddy and tingly as a Gamecock fan of what his potential could be, whether he was running it, throwing it. He looked, what it was funny to me, Tyler, was there's a couple things that stood out with him that we'll get to as we move through we got plenty of time to talk about it all. I like the composure that he had. I mean, he's never started a game, right? He had taste last year here and there.
Sure.
But you watched him Saturday night. He didn't look too amped. He didn't look too like it was too big for him. He didn't try to make too much happen. He didn't have deer in the headlights. He just went out there and played ball.
Well, Dow Loggins calls him a robot for a reason, because he's just so even keel and not too high or not too low, and you saw that on display on Saturday night. And as Beamer alluded to after the game, they didn't name a starting quarterback based on what we saw on Saturday night, but I didn't see anything from Lenore Sellers that told me, I don't know, he may not be the guy this year.
Well, look, it's a spring game, and obviously they judge on practices as well, maybe even more in some ways. But no one walked away from that thing going, oh, bleep, there's a quarterback competition around here.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against the other 3 guys. It's just Sellers stood above everybody.
And look, Robbie Ashford went out there. We saw him use his legs, which we already knew that he had. We knew his ability as a runner was just fine. But the throwing looked about what we expected, and what he got. I think he only completed the 1 pass. And, again, the offensive line certainly didn't help out there. But he didn't go out. He didn't come away saying, oh, man, I think Robbie Ashford might be the guy.
Yeah, the one, and again, you're trying to take stuff from a spring game. And like you said, offensive lines are split up. But, again, watching Ashford, it's kind of like, yes, a guy that, the few throws we saw, you can see the inconsistencies. And on the one completion, I think it was Mazio Bennett. I think it was Bennett who made a really nice catch.
That kind of going to the ground diving catch, yeah.
Because, Bennett was open, and the ball placement on the throw wasn't great.
Yeah.
And Bennett had to really help out Ashford to get the completion. It was a heck of a catch. So Mazio Bennett thumbs up on that play.
Sure.
But, again, we didn't see all the 15 other practices with Ashford. We don't know how he threw during the spring, but just the little glimpse we got in a spring game, Lenore Sellers is far and away ahead of this thing, just like we were thinking he would be, or the fans were hoping he would be. And the other thing I liked from him, and we talked about it on the broadcast, was when he would break the pocket, his head was up.
Yep.
It wasn't down to take off. It was up. I'm escaping the pocket. I'm using my escape ability to look downfield to see if I can make a throw and make a big play. Oh, there's nothing there. Now I'm going to tuck it and take off. I love the way he always had his head up, and a couple times he broke the pocket and hit a little short completion because he broke away from the rush. And instead of looking down to run, he was looking up to make a play in the passing game. Yeah. And that goes back to composure.
It does. And look, we knew that Spencer Rattler had the athleticism to run when he needed to a season ago, but that was not one of the MOs of his game. It was out of necessity, and unfortunately last year it became a necessity quite a bit. But with Lenore Sellers, you are going to have those design quarterback runs, the RPOs, the just true scrambles, those kind of things that are going to be part of his game. But like you said, that ability to stay in the play even as you're running away from the pocket and seeing what's open down the field to try and make something happen if it's available is really good to see. That not a lot of redshirt freshman quarterbacks going to have that kind of, skill and ability to do.
Yeah, now again, we feel like he'll be the starter. And he's going to go out against some really good SEC defenses. And there are going to be moments where it's going to be tough, and there's going to be moments he's going to make plays. No one's expecting a Heisman Trophy at the end of the year. But what you saw there, Tyler, was a guy where you go, you know what? There's a lot there, man. There's truly a lot there.
He's played snaps against Furman and Vanderbilt up to this point. I believe that was the only 2 games that he got into a season ago. So, yes, when he's playing LSU or Ole Miss or Oklahoma or Alabama, there's going to be that definitive, hey, welcome to the league, kid, type of thing. And look, he may go out there and have a bad game against one of those teams. It's not the end of the world. It's part of the growing experience and learning experience. And as a guy that is a redshirt freshman at the end of the day and 19 years old, he's still got to grow and still got to get that experience under his belt. But again, up to this point, we like what we see.
Now, I will disagree with you. I'd like to see him go up against last year's LSU defense.
Oh, that'd be great. I think he could carve them up for 500 yards.
Make him feel really good. You want to build our guys' confidence? Go up against LSU's defense last year. Jeez. All right, we will obviously talk a ton more about the spring game. We'll get Shane Beamer's thoughts coming up next from the head coach. We'll see what he says on Lenore Sellers' performance. That is coming up. It is the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. We're rolling up until 3 here on the game. We are talking spring game here on the Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, up until 3. And look, winning and losing the spring game, not a big deal. Most people can't tell you who won either Saturday's spring game or the year before or the year after.
Hey, it's funny you mentioned that. Sam actually asked me this morning before we went on the air, hey, who won last year's spring game? Don't remember.
Can't help you. It was either the Garnet
or the Black. I want to say Garnet, but don't quote me on that.
So, obviously, this year, the Garnet, and the difference was Lenore Sellers. He just, the final stats on Sellers for a spring game, 9 of 11 throwing the rock for 70 yards. They did call a sack in the game. Also, Sellers running it, five carries for 43 yards in the game as well, including the touchdown on that first drive. Shane Beamer, in the postgame, gave his thoughts on Lenore Sellers. We promise he did. Swear. We're not making it up. Shane did talk.
I thought Lenoris was really, really good. He has been good all spring. He won an award that we decided on as coaches at halftime, and thought he just looked very, very poised out there, very efficient. Obviously, looked good running the ball. Those defensive guys were yelling at me the entire first half that they thought a lot of those runs would have been sacks, and they were mad that I didn't blow the whistle. But, I thought he did a really good job of just operating the offense, running when it presented itself, but then being able to make throws also, and did a good 9 of 11 and ran for 40 yards on 5 carries. So really good night.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good night. I mean, here's the thing, okay? So you watch, the eye test tells you, well, Lenore Sellers is the best quarterback on the field. But you go, okay, it's one practice with people in attendance. You don't want to make too much of it.
Sure.
But then who wins the offensive player of spring?
That would also be Lenore Sellers.
So that tells us in the other practices he was pretty good too.
Yeah.
So, look, they're not going to announce it. For whatever reasons, I get it. But I don't think you have to be like a member of the CSI team to figure out your starting quarterback, barring something crazy in the summer, is Lenore Sellers.
No, and I think Wes gave some really good insight because he was down on the sidelines for you guys for your call of the game, which, by the way, I think Wes and Chris did a phenomenal job with their respective roles in that. But he was even talking about, during the game, after Lenore Sellers was done playing in the second half, like, man, he had the headset on. He's down there coaching up the other quarterbacks. Like, he's already taken on that leadership role that your starting quarterback is going to have to be. And again, Dow Loggins talked about that last week, that guys in the locker room know before the quarterback even gets named who the guy was going to be. And again, all signs point to that being Lenore Sellers.
So if we watch it just in a spring game and see it, and he wins the award of, Offensive Player of the Spring, you think the guys in the locker room don't know?
I would say, I think there's a pretty strong case that he's already the dude. And again, just got a good head on his shoulders, obviously a smart guy, and just kind of keeps his composure really well. All elements that you want in a starting quarterback in the SEC especially.
All right, so let's grab a Lenore Sellers cut real quick, Tyler. Let's hear Sellers talking about this quarterback competition, which would be cut 22. Again, Robbie Ashford, you saw him run around. I mean, you can see he's an athletic guy who can take off, and you can see why he makes plays with his legs. And then you got Dante Reno, who is a freshman who will get redshirted. Davis Bevel, God love him. He's still running. I just watched him run down Gervais being chased by Gamecock defensive linemen.
Poor guy.
Jeez. One time he took off. They're going left to right. If the field is in front of you, they're going left to right. Bevel takes the snap. I'm telling you, 35 dudes are chasing him. He takes off to the left, almost runs over Shane, and it's like we're in a booth going, this poor dude, just get him through the game alive. It was crazy. But here's Lenore Sellers again talking about the quarterback competition right now.
It's a competition. I just got to really worry about me, do my job, make sure everything is right going with me, not worried about like everything else, like the outside and talking stuff. So just focus on me and just getting better every day.
That's what you did.
I think I did pretty good. We moved the ball, we scored, kept the ball safe. So, that's the most important thing.
That's what you do, right? You just worry about you. You don't want to get too caught up in all the other stuff that's happening. You just want to concentrate on you doing the best you can do.
You know what happens when you look in the rearview mirror more than you do the windshield?
Uh-huh.
You crash.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So, speaking of that competition thing made me think of something I wanted to send you earlier, and I kept forgetting. And I'm going to sneeze. The live stream loved that. Caleb Williams was being interviewed by Ryan Clark here in the last few days and said something about his quarterback competition with Spencer Rattler. It's about a 2.5 minute cut, 2.5, 3 minute cut. It's just interesting, the back and forth with Ryan Clark and Caleb Williams discussing his quarterback competition with Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma. That would have been Rattler's third year in the program and Caleb Williams' first year as a freshman. Remind me to say, we have to play that at some point in the next couple of days. It was pretty good stuff. And this is the quarterback competition thing with Lenore Sellers. Maybe just think about it. Going back to Sellers, yeah, that's all you can do is just worry about you. How many times in life do we worry about other people in some kind of competition or promotions or something? Think about it like your job, right?
Right.
If you're up for a promotion with somebody else, and if you keep your eye on you and do the best you can do, that's the best shot to get your promotion. If you're too busy watching the other guy, like you said, what do? You run your face into the wall at work, which is kind of embarrassing.
Sure.
You fall over the copier. You see what happened to Ford? Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing.
Spilled coffee all over the laptop. It's a mess.
Yeah, I tell you what, he lost that gig. There's no way. Look, nothing against Robbie Ashford or any of the others. It's just Sellers was different on Saturday night and didn't take a football savant to watch that thing and walk away going, ooh, Eleanor Sellers. No, it just seems like he's clearly, from watching one practice, just seems like, and you know what it is, Tyler? It's not even, if we look at the stats, watching him play, the eye test, you go like this, that's the dude.
Yeah.
Didn't take a lot to go, that's the dude.
Yeah.
All right, let's circle back here. Shane Beamer had a lot to say about the spring game. And when we come back, we'll let him talk about Dylan Stewart, who had a very nice night, the five-star edge defender. Kind of showed you why he's a five-star edge defender on Saturday night, so we'll get to that. Do not forget now, we'll also talk about what happened with Mark Kingston, the baseball team. And we got baseball this week. Kind of important. South Carolina, Kentucky. We'll have the weekend series right here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. Coming off of losing 2 out of 3 in a very competitive series with Arkansas. That will be this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, South Carolina, Kentucky. And like I said, you can hear it here on 107.5 The Game in Columbia and 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. We'll come back, hear what Shane said about Dylan Stewart and the night that Stewart had. That's next on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on The Game. Halftime show, Terry Ford and Tyler Head, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina here on the game. Obviously, we're riffing on what happened Saturday night in the spring game, the 2024 spring game. And you're right, Chris and West did a hell of a job Saturday night. They really did well. They carried me, thank God, where I could just like go along with the flow. Chris Miller does a heck of a job on the play-by-play. So, yeah, good times. Good times. You know, we had a curveball or two thrown at us at the last minute. We had to move around, so that didn't help our technical capabilities. But
a literal curveball.
Literally, yes. And a couple things because we want to try something different. I always like, again, you might not go wow, but I like, for an example, when I think it was Fox. Fox had Tony Saragusa as an analyst on the sideline with Moose Johnston. I can't remember the play-by-play. Was it Burkhart? I can't remember. I can't remember who did the play-by-play with that.
I can't remember.
But it was Moose Johnston in the booth, and Saragusa was on the sideline, just with a different perspective on the game, being right down there, that close to the action. So I wanted, to have someone on the sideline and somebody in the booth. So Wes was on the sideline, and then Chris up in the booth with us, and it was their first one, so I'm just hanging around. But they did a heck of a job. And because they did such a good job, it was like, wow, I can just go drink beer. So fine work by those two guys.
Right.
And obviously Chris Miller, third year Chris has done the play-by-play for us, so we appreciate that. So we'll figure out the things we have to figure out to make that even cooler next year, but yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But it was fun, and Chris and West did a heck of a job, as did Chris Miller. All right, so, one of the things on offense, the thing on offense was Lenore Sellers. There was a few more the things on defense and on offense Saturday night. But probably the thing that most people are talking about is Dylan Stewart and his performance. 3 tackles for loss, a sack, very disruptive on the edge. And here is Shane Beamer talking about his 5-star pass rusher coming off the spring game.
Yeah, great point. He's I think it was Luke Day a couple weeks ago made the comment to me. He's like, those players that are highly, highly, highly recruited, they're highly, highly recruited for a reason because they can adjust to college football really quickly. And I would put Dylan Stewart in that group. I would put Josiah Thompson in that group. 2 guys highly recruited, could have gone anywhere in the country, and they chose to come here. Mazio Bennett, a lot of our guys in that freshman class. But Dylan's been a guy that's really it's never been too big for him. And the moment, practice, whatever it might be, certainly was an adjustment in January when he comes here and he starts classes and he's in a weight program and all that. That was an adjustment. But as far as being out on the field, that's when he's at his best. Man, he's just he's a really good player. He's a great young man. He's doing really well in school. And he's been like that all spring. Our scrimmage 2 weeks ago here in the stadium, he was probably the most impressive guy up front that we had on defense. He and Mazio both had a great day 2 weeks ago, and I thought he finished strong and had fun out there tonight. He doesn't say much at all, but he's just the same guy all the time. But when it's go time, look out because he can go.
Yeah, when it's go time, absolutely. And the thing about Dylan Stewart too, remember, it wasn't like he verbaled at the very last minute.
Well, his had no fanfare around it. It just happened. I mean, were we in here?
Mm-hmm.
I think we were in here like, hey, by the way, Dylan Stewart just committed to South Carolina. Yeah. There was no hat ceremony. There was no grand Twitter reveal of, I'm announcing tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It just happened, which now that we've actually got to hear from him in the media, which, again, he doesn't speak for more than 8 seconds at a time, he's very low-key. He lets his play do the talking.
Yeah, and I think he's a very grounded dude. And that's the thing when you're right. There was no hat ceremony. There was no announcement at the high school. No, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. If you want to celebrate your moment, do it as you want.
But we become so inclined with these high-profile guys that are 5 stars, like, there's going to be some kind of pomp and circumstance behind it because that's what they all do.
And they're building their brand, right? They're starting the building of their brand by announcing where they're going to go to school and bringing in that media attention to start the machine, right?
Right.
Not this guy. He's just like, I'm going to South Carolina. I got to go class. Or I got to go work my part-time job, whatever.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I'm going to go play at South Carolina. And the commitment stuck because I'm sure, Tyler, once Dylan Stewart said he was going to play at South Carolina, the other 700 schools that were chasing him said, okay, we'll leave you alone.
Yeah, because that totally happens.
Yeah, they always just say, wow, we're going to leave you alone now.
Well, dang it, I want you to come here. But best of luck to you, young man.
Good luck.
I'm certainly not going to be reaching out to you every offseason.
Or every day I can legally, because I never do it against the rules. Oh, there aren't any rules anymore.
Nobody does that.
Yeah, so so he stuck firm. Look, South Carolina last year, they go 5-7. It's one thing when you're getting recruited off a trip to the Gator Bowl, 8 wins, you beat 2 top 10 teams who are trying to get in the college football playoff. It's one thing to get recruited then, right?
Sure.
Now you're getting recruited. Team was 5-7. Disappointed, had some injuries.
But at the same time, especially for a guy coming off the edge, I feel like last year was almost an easier sell.
Yes.
Like, we need you.
Yes.
We need your help.
Watch the edge.
You come here. You're going to be that guy.
Opportunity. You know what you like?
You want to get on the field right away?
You like opportunity.
You want to go to Alabama and sit behind 2 or 3 other guys? Come to South Carolina. You're going to get on the field immediately.
Yes, you are. And so that was really the selling point, was opportunity. And while other teams are coming at him, which I understood, and they always do it. South Carolina still goes after guys if they're targeting a dude and he picks somebody else.
Miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly. But he held firm, and I think part of it was opportunity of knowing I can get on the field. Obviously, he liked it here in Columbia, and he liked Shane Beamer and the staff and the coaches he'll deal with, and the facilities. You don't go, I hate everything, but I'm going to go there so I can play.
Right.
But I think one of the deal sealers is the idea you get to come here and you have a shot. No one's promising you anything. It's a competition, but you have a shot to get on the field, whether if you're a starter or not. I mean, Clowney didn't start his freshman year.
Right.
If you're a starter or not, you're going to get reps if you show the ability to be able to help the football team.
And he's certainly somebody that doesn't lack for confidence. He told us last week his goal is to be a freshman All-American and beat Clowney's freshman sack record of 8 sacks.
Yeah.
Like, this dude obviously has the skills and abilities, but also has the mindset to be able to come in here and be successful. Now, what that looks like when the season gets here, I don't know, because as we talked about, there were other guys on the edge that played well. Brian Thomas Jr. had a good game. Mm-hmm. Gil Redmond got a couple sacks in there. Kyle Kennard made some plays. Like, there's going to be a lot of bodies in that room that have the ability to play. If Dylan Stewart lives up to the billing, he might be one of the more featured ones.
And you know what you did, and I hate to correct you on the air, but you did say that Dylan Stewart never speaks for more than 8 seconds.
Yes.
You have a 10-second and a 13-second cut of Dylan Stewart.
Okay, well, I stand corrected then. Which, by the way, I'm generous on those. That's really like 9 and 11 seconds, but there's a little bit of a tail at the end. So I was close.
But we'll say this. Our guy speaking is not on his list of stuff that's important to him.
He does not elaborate on a lot, and that's okay. Like I said, he's somebody that talks with the helmet and the shoulder pads, and we saw him do that on Saturday.
And that's all anyone cares about.
Exactly.
But you're right. We played some of those cuts. My man gets you a couple sentences in, and he's done.
Dylan Stewart is the equivalent of my dad grocery shopping when I was a kid. It's like, all right, we're going to go to Walmart. We need 3 things. We go into Walmart, we grab those 3 things, we leave immediately. We do not look at anything else. We do not tour around the store. We do not lollygag. We get in, we get out, we get what we need.
Oh, see, that's why my kids love going to the store with me.
Yeah.
There's no screwing around. There's no comparison shopping. There's no, okay, this one's $1.10. Let me see if this one's, no, there's no, okay, let's look at the ingredients. Okay, let's look at some reviews. No, right. I'm in there to grab stuff and get the hell out.
And you grab the first one you see,
yes,
you put
it
in the cart, and you walk out.
I'm done. And my girlfriend's the exact opposite, and my kids go crazy when they're with mom.
Oh, I think that's a universally shared experience. Like grocery shopping or running to the store with mom. All right, we have 10 things on the list. We left with a cart full.
My kids will go. My kids will be like, can we go with Dad to the store? Not that they love me anymore, but they're just like, it's so much quicker. Because again, with mom, it's torture. With mom, it's like she, especially God forbid, she's heading toward the woman stuff.
Yes.
Then they lose their mind. Because she's got like 17 different things in her hand, and she's comparing them all. She's looking at ingredients. She's looking at reviews. And those two are ready to kill themselves.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But me, I'm in there, grab the stuff, bolting right out. I'm like your dad. Your dad and I would go shopping in 42 seconds.
Probably.
There's no doubt. I love his plan. Do not deviate from the plan. Here's Dylan Stewart. First of all, let's get Dylan Stewart discussing his first experience over at Willie B.
It wasn't too much different. It was just more like the fans just made it more intense. I wouldn't say it wasn't none different.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if he thinks that's intense now,
just wait.
Wait till you got 80,000 in that barn ready to roll.
Well, and that's such an interesting thing. I talked about this earlier. Oscar Attaway, made similar comments, and he's a guy that's played college football, but obviously coming over from North Texas. Now, he's had the opportunity to play in some big venues around the country, but those fans were not cheering for him. They were cheering against him. But it's definitely a bit of a culture shock to some of these guys. They go from playing in front of, at best, maybe a couple thousand people on Friday nights to suddenly playing in front of 80, 90,000 people on a given week. Like, that's different. And yes, spring game kind of gives you a little taste of that, but Willie B was half full-ish, somewhere around there. So that doesn't even give you a full scope of what it's going to be like for week number 1 against Old Dominion.
I feel like Dylan Stewart, though. I don't think the pulse is going to get a whole lot higher if the place is full and Cocky's jumping out of the cockaboose. And
you don't think he's going to be the one leading him out of the tunnel?
I don't think he's going to be on the sideline waving the white towel for Sandstorm. I think he's just going to be sitting there like this. I got to go kill me a quarterback.
I was going to say, he's going to be that guy with the 1,000-yard stare the entire time. Like, bro, you good? We're leading by 20. Don't care. Got to get a sack next drive.
That's right. Must kill quarterback. It's like that new movie, Boy Kills World.
Yeah, that
kill
looks
quarterbacks.
That looks interesting. I'll say that much.
Yeah, that one does look. That movie's either going to be wow, that was so cool, or wow, that was a disaster.
There's no in between.
And it might be such a disaster. I got to watch that again. It was such a disaster.
Well, it's kind of one of those things that after it's been out for 2 or 3 weeks and nobody's talking about it, you're like, ooh, probably wasn't good.
No. All right, Dylan Stewart also had another cut from him talking about the benefit of enrolling early because, again, Stewart got in early. A lot of these freshmen this year got in early. Here's Dylan Stewart talking about the benefits of enrolling early at South Carolina.
It was very beneficial coming in early. It just got me prepared, like workouts, waking up early, being more accountable, being disciplined, just getting everything I needed so I could be successful in the fall.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Look, I've said this before, Tyler. I don't know, thinking back, and again, I wasn't a 5-star recruit being offered scholarships by 7 billion universities, but my senior year was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had way too much fun. I had so much fun my senior year, I wanted to be Van Wilder. I don't know if I could have left it early from my high school senior year to get my college football career going or college basketball or whatever. I go, you know what? I get the value, but I'm really good, man. I got a prom coming up. We got this place at the ocean we're going to stay at for senior week. I'll catch you dudes in the summer.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for the offer, though. Sounds like fun, but I think I'll see you guys as summer camp rolls around.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of these guys, that's kind of your last chance to really be young and free. So a lot of them don't. Some of them don't want to give that up, but. Yep. Man, if you want to get in here and get a chance to be on the field right away, it's a good way to do it. It's the discipline. You get disciplined to get in and get going. So I do respect that. I don't know if the 17-year-old goofy version of me would have been that disciplined. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We'll get back some more Shane Beamer comments about what went on Saturday. We'll talk about the running backs next here on the Halftime Show on the Game.
All right, time to check the Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler Head?
Yeah, nameless texter weighs in and says, I don't really take much from the spring game, but I like to look how good certain players look. And from the start of the game, Demetrius Knight stood out so much. He's better than I thought. Dylan Stewart as well. Thought the front seven looked much better than last season, even in the spring games. Demetrius Knight is the one player that I kind of had circled when we talked on Friday going into the game if I really wanted to see what he was going to be able to do. And again, he was on the black Garnet team, I think, in the game, and very much kind of seemed like that sideline to sideline type of guy. Was in on a lot of different plays, affecting the run game, affecting the quarterbacks as well. So I really think he kind of lived up to the billing of what I thought he was going to be, even in the limited time we saw him on Saturday.
Yeah, he had like 3 early tackles. He had one really nice play where he shot through the gap and stopped. Was it Attaway? I forget who it was for a short minimal gain. Yeah, you liked what you saw with Knight. Also, Bengali Kamara, he popped out a couple of times. And I agree with the texter. Knight, you see the athleticism. It feels like their first 2 levels of the defense, whether it's a 4-2, a 3-3, whatever, they are much better suited to do some stuff at linebacker this year than they were last year. And
it's deeper. And we talked about this the other day, that you had Debo and Stone Blanton basically playing all the snaps last year, and Pup Power got to rotate in there some, but he didn't pop quite the way you thought him to. Obviously, you were down Mo Kaba a season ago, so you really just didn't have that depth at linebacker to be able to rotate guys in and out. And God love Debo Williams, but the guy needs a break from time to time. He can't be playing 70 snaps every single game and expect that to last the entire season. So now, again, assuming everybody stays healthy, you have the ability to rotate guys in where you have athleticism across the board to continue to have that same caliber of play no matter what scheme you're going to be in.
And the good news is these are guys also that have a resume of being productive and effective.
Yeah.
With Knight and Kamara, and he goes with Debo, and also you throw Bam Martin Scott in, and if Mo Kaba can come back from injury, like you said, you're deeper, and 2, you got guys in some way, shape, or form what they can do to help you. And yes, with Debo playing less snaps, and that will help him be fresher at the end of games. Plus, now Debo Williams doesn't have to try to do everything. And now you've got help in that room. And Bam Martin Scott, what Bam Martin Scott did once he went to that 3-3-5, and you've heard him talk in the spring, he's got so much more confidence now.
Right.
So with that crew of, 5 linebackers, you feel really good where you're at. And that's just such an upgrade. Looks, no offense to Stone Blanton. Stone Blanton, busted his hump, gave a ton of effort. But these guys are just different type of linebackers than Stone Blanton. And, I think they're just, overall the linebacker room is deeper and just better all the way around. And up front, you got so much experience. You're adding a Dylan Stewart. You're adding a Kyle Kennard to the mix as well. You add Jules. Plus all the other guys that are coming back. You feel like in the first 2 levels of your defense, you've really improved, whether it's guys there getting an extra year of experience or guys coming in through the portal. And then you add, and we even talk about the 2 freshman linebackers, Johnson and Gregory, who had their moments also Saturday with a few plays. So
yeah, absolutely. And J.R. Johnson certainly looks the part as well. And we'll see what Wendell Gregory comes along can be, but this is going to be one of the deepest rooms on this team, one of the most experienced rooms as well, and similar can be said about the defensive front as well.
Yeah, Johnson had a really nice play on the edge in the second half, and Gregory a couple times was part of the crew of 700 that were chasing poor Blevins.
Right.
Just poor guy. I felt so bad for him. It's like he never had a chance. He really did not have a chance.
Well, and that's why it's hard to kind of look at what he and Dante Reno to the same degree and kind of really pick apart their performances because they didn't have quite the same protection up front. And Dante Reno, even saying that, was able to lead that 1 touchdown drive and get that last score towards the end of the game there, but he also threw the interception to Bakari Swain as well.
Yeah, Bevel, the number's 8 of 10 for 46 yards. Tells you when he did complete them, he was completing them quick and short to save his life. And you bring up Bakari Swain. We're going to get to Bakari Swain in the next hour. That interception, wow. That was an athletic play. So we're going to talk about Bakari Swain, who also was on offense, also on special teams last night.
The offense to the point that Beamer was not aware, apparently.
How funny was that? But yeah, and we're going to get to Vakari Swain, but yeah, I felt so bad for Bevel last night. Dante Reno to a point. Now, Dante Reno, there were a couple moments he did some solid stuff where you go, wow, you redshirt him for a year, let him sit around, get bigger, stronger, more athletic, work with the crew there, and see where he's at going into next season. Obviously, in a perfect world, Lenora Sellers is your starting quarterback the following year as well.
Right.
But we'll see where Dante Reno goes in development. You saw some things where you could see it was too big for Dante Reno, but you saw some things where Dante Reno, you went, you know what? That was all right.
For sure.
So we'll get into all that as we move forward. 1 o'clock hour is football, and more football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll talk about Vakari Swain and a little bit more about the defense, which had a really good night in the Garnet and Black game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. As we roll till 3, football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Got a lot of football to talk about from the spring game on Saturday still. We brought up Vakari Swain's pick. And if you didn't see it or hear it, here's the sound of our buddy Chris Miller on our play-by-play on Saturday here at 107.5 The Game. Here is Chris Miller's description of Vakari Swain's interception.
All right, here we go. Dante Reno, 4th down and a yard. It'll be a pistol look. 2 wide receivers split out to each side. Now they'll pack it in tight. Put an H-back to go in motion. It is a fake. Oh, he fakes the give. Open receiver down the field. He floats it that way, but it's nearly intercepted. Oh, he hung on to the pick. Did he? Oh, my goodness. What an interception. Vakari Swain. Vakari Swain. Wow. He's played offense. He's played defense. Now he gets a pick.
I mean, it was just a heck of an athletic play by Vakari Swain. And the other part of this that we continue to talk about in the broadcast, receiver was open.
Yeah.
The tight end was open for a first down, and Swain made the play he made. If not, that's most likely a first down catch. Sure. So Swain saved the first down with just an athletic interception, man. You got to see that athletic ability. Because remember, he came out of high school as an athlete.
Right.
Could play wide receiver, DB. Dion wanted him at Colorado to play him, two-way guy. You could see the athleticism on that play, man. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And he took an opportunity. Judge Collier a little bit banged up to go out there. And, I mean, it seems like he never left the field the entire game, got a whole lot of reps out there. And while it does seem like maybe Judge Collier is still kind of in the lead for that second corner spot opposite of O'Donnell Fortune, that I think Vakari Swain made a good case for himself on Saturday night.
It's going to be interesting what happens with that corner spot across from Fortune, because it feels like Collier still has the lead coming out of spring because he played last year. So he's got a little bit more experience than the rest. What will happen? I mean, Emery Floyd made a nice play coming up supporting the run in the second half of what's left of my memory serves me. Coverage-wise, you didn't see any wow coverage busts during the game.
But again, everybody was running
very
short
vanilla
routes into
stuff.
the flat. It wasn't, anything deep downfield.
There was a couple of times they ran some interesting little route combinations, but it wasn't the playbook in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And so you're watching, really what you're watching for, to me, is anybody getting beat? Not are you getting beat by scheme, or are you just getting beat in coverage? Just, okay, you line up across from that dude, does that dude beat you? And we didn't see any crazy coverage busts of, oh, my God, somebody's wide open, 20 yards down the field, no one's got him.
Right.
Now, if there was, we might have missed it, checking out the game, looking at all the different things we looked at. But again, there guys didn't play. Judge Collier didn't play. David Spaulding was held out, didn't play. So there are some things you need to see, plus you're going to have some freshmen coming in as well that are corners. We'll see what happens. Did the staff watch and see enough not to go in the portal to get a corner?
Right.
I mean, Swain's very athletic, and that was a huge play, but here's the thing, too. What you want for a corner is consistency. You can't have a guy make a big play on one possession and then get burned for a 60-yard touchdown the next possession. So consistency is going to be the thing, my guess is, that will pick the guy that's going to start across from Fortune. That still could be Swain. I mean, remember, he was learning the position all last year. That's why you didn't see him. So, I mean, we'll check him out. We get to summer.
Yeah.
See what he's got.
And again, he did everything he could have done on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I mean, he made the best case for himself. Again, is that going to win him the job? Maybe, maybe not. But as far as going out there and putting your best foot forward in the spring game, he did just that.
Yeah, and then he went to catch a pass that didn't quite get the ball. But though he was open.
He was, and you had a DB that's a former wide receiver throwing him the pass. That even the TV guys are confused on that one.
So fun. Well, we're sitting there, right? And you see there's people, because again, in a spring game, everybody's got double numbers.
Oh, and here's the thing. Watching it on TV was even harder because they didn't even give you a full rundown of who was who. So, I had no clue who was on the offensive line at any given time.
Yeah, you get confused because, again, you had Vakari Swain, who's 4, but the starting quarterback, what's his number?
Also 4.
4.
Well, the quarterback on that side of the field, on that team.
Yeah, you got 4. You got starting quarterbacks because Swain is on the same team as Robbie Ashford.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there saying, okay, did Robbie Ashford just go out for a pass? Or did Vakari Swain go for a pass? So you get a little confused there. Then you got Kilgore throwing the pass.
Yep.
And so
he shares a number as Braswell.
So with all these double numbers, you don't know who's doing what. Then once it all shook out, you're like, oh.
Well, did you go back and watch the TV version of this?
I didn't get a chance to, no.
So Coach Beamer's mic'd up with SEC Network. He's literally giving commentary on the field. And as that play's happening, because Matt Stinchcomb and Taylor Zarza in the or John Stinchcomb and Taylor Zarza in the booth, they were confused. They, Braswell throws to Ashford. No, wait a minute. And Beamer's like, I don't even know what we're doing. That wasn't in our playbook.
That's funny. I don't even know what we're doing. I'm the head coach. Nobody told me this one.
Maybe that's the one trick that Dow had in his back pocket for the spring game that we're likely never going to see during the season.
You know, the funniest part of it is Swain's open.
He was.
If Kilgore could get that throw there,
better.
That's a touchdown. Because Swain, there was nobody near Vakari Swain. The play actually worked.
I don't think we're going to see that on the field this year. So I guess that was.
You don't think Dow's going to break that one out in the middle of a game?
All right, lining up. Let's get our DB in at quarterback, or at least lined up offensively to get the ball in his hands.
It was funny because everybody was so confused.
Well, I will say this, and you mentioned that the Vakari Swain is an athlete, somebody that Dion wanted to come and play both sides of the ball for him. So you see him playing defense. You see him out there involved in the offense in some kind of way. I think I saw he was fielding punts on some of the drills as well. So, this is a guy, even if he's not in that starting role at opposite corner, they're probably going to find a way to get him on the field just because he's so athletic.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I think putting him back there to return kicks makes sense. Maybe occasionally you line him out. You line him up as a wide receiver or put him in a slot or whatever the case. So that will be a very interesting chess piece if you want to use it. And, and we speak of receivers. Well, first we get the receivers. Let's get to Vakari Swain. Let's circle back to Swain and get some comments from the redshirt freshman. First, let's get Vakari Swain, cut 25, Tyler, talking about his interception on Saturday night.
I was playing, man. My man had went under. Like, he ran a little out route. And I think it was 3rd and 5 or something. And he went like 2 yards. And I felt the corner behind me. And I kind of baited. And he stood to me. So, yeah.
There you go. There you go. I mean, he's learning the position. And sky's the limit for him, though, with potential and ceiling, and because he's so athletic. And if he can learn the position, learn the fundamentals and the techniques of playing corner,
sure,
that with the athleticism is a heck of a combination.
Absolutely.
Also, here's Vakari Swain talking about getting extended reps because, there was a couple guys missing on Saturday night spring game in the defensive backfield.
It can be beneficial. I would say giving me that many reps kind of helped me know how a real game is going to be. Like that, playing the whole game, it's just preparing me. So, like in the season, if it does happen to somebody, God forbid, I'm already prepared.
So, just more reps for Vakari Swain's a good thing.
Absolutely.
And we'll see where it goes moving forward. There's still a huge the biggest competition on this football team is the cornerback spot opposite of O'Donnell Fortune.
Yeah, and again, it seems like Collier's in the lead right now, but, I mean, we say the same thing for Lenore Sellers, a quarterback, and until you definitively name, hey, this guy is your starter, you still technically have an open competition. And again, there's the possibility there's somebody in the portal that they could see and be like, hey, here's a guy with 3 years of experience that we can slide into that role that feels like would match us better. Now, yes, that's not the best way, or that's not going to be met the kindness by your guys that are already here, but business is business, and if you can find a guy that you think is a better option, you'll bring him in.
Yeah. And one of the little coverage, again, it wasn't a lot to glean from coverage on Saturday night, but like there's one play like Jalen Kilgore was covering Brady Hunt, man-to-man down the field. Ashford, Kilgore did a pretty good job running with Hunt. Hunt might have had a half step on him maybe, and Ashford couldn't complete the pass. It wouldn't have been like an easy completion because Kilgore, to his credit, was there. And we'll see this coming up season how South Carolina handles covering slot receivers.
Right.
Are you going to hand that back to Kilgore again? Hopefully he got better with a year of development, a year older, a year more experienced. Or are you going to try? You have a plethora of young corners. Do you want to see if some of those young corners can also get out there with some snaps and cover the slot? So all that will be very interesting moving forward.
Absolutely.
So, because that was the thing last year.
Mm-hmm.
Until November when they changed some coverage stuff in the back end there and went to that 3-3-5, it was an issue.
Well, Kilgore ended up being your best option there and kind of slid into that role at the end of the season. But even he had his struggles at points last year. So how much better has he gotten in the course of the offseason? We don't know. Is there somebody else that's maybe proven to be better in that spot? We don't know that either. So, again, like you said, not much you can glean from the coverage side of things just because the offense was so vanilla, but some good moments with Bakari Swain's interception. Imori had the pass deflection in the end zone, which that ball was kind of thrown into traffic, but nevertheless, a good play there by Imori. So a few things in that secondary that you could take away.
All right, we will get back in here. Shane will discuss the offensive line, which is the one thing that folks are sweating profusely over after Saturday. So Shane will talk about that. We'll get into that a little bit. We talked about it in the opening of the show, but we'll riff back on that as well, as we'll hear from the head coach talking about the offensive line, which obviously is a gigantic key to your offense. Look what happened last year because of the offensive line. So we'll get back in and hear what Shane says about the O-line next. Also, do not forget, there was no home run, no grand slams, Tyler.
They were, I think, 0 for 3 with bases loaded this weekend. They're getting their opportunities, that's for sure.
No grand slams. That's 3 games over the weekend with no grand slam. You know what the pot is now?
Let me do my math. A lot.
We made it. Yes, a lot.
We hit 1,000?
We hit 1,000. $1,000 is the pot. Go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. You go to the website, you see the little flippy thingy on the top, you click on the Grand Slam giveaway, you fill out the little short form, it'll take you about 17 seconds, click submit, and you, if a Gamecock hits a Grand Slam, could win yourself $1,000, because if a Gamecock does go yard with the bases loaded, we will do the drawing at 7:30 in the morning on the early game the next day. Well, if it's Friday, we won't. It'll be Monday. But you get it. We'll do the grand prize drawing, and you could bag yourself 4 figures now, sir.
I was going to say it might be beneficial if that Grand Slam doesn't come till Sunday, then you got $1,050.
How about that? So the money, it's getting there. If we don't get a Grand Slam the next game, it passes the lawyer release
This is
contest.
the number, that we got to with football last year.
So, all right, so again, go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. We'll come back here what Shane Beamer has to say about his offensive lineman. That is next on the Halftime Show, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game.
Scott sets up to the right side. They fake it to him. Ashford wants to throw it. Fires it. Pass complete. Falling down to the 27-yard line. There's the talented freshman from Greenville, Mazio Bennett, for a gain of 14 yards and a first down for the Black.
We were just talking in the pregame about spent a lot of time on Mazio Bennett. This is a guy the staff's high on. Came in, hit the ground running as a freshman. May not blow you away with his physical, the looks, the speed, but just knows how to run routes and get open.
And he got open there and really helped out Robbie Ashford on that throw. Ashford, not the best ball placement on the throw, and Bennett, kind of like a half dive, picked it up as it was going toward the ground and made a really nice catch.
Can we give some love to our guy, Chris Clark?
He tore it up, I'm telling you.
The detailed analysis after the play, incredible.
He was really good on Saturday night. I mean, him and Wes both were fantastic with their analysis. And again, Chris Miller did really good work on the play-by-play, and they all rose above me being around to do a heck of a job. So, yeah, Chris, Wes, and Chris Miller, fantastic on the call. And, again, because of baseball, we had to start it over on ESPN 1320 and then move it over to 107.5 The Game here in Columbia. But nice work. And the funny thing is, like, Chris and I were talking about it Friday, and he asked me, he goes, do you ever want to, like, do games, like analysis or play-by-play? And I said, when I was a kid, I thought being a play-by-play guy would be cool.
Yeah.
Until I realized I had the voice of a 12-year-old boy gargling razor blades, and I realized that's really not what they're looking for with play-by-play.
Yeah.
The analysis stuff is fun, but you just can't do it every now and then.
Sure, you have to be in it, ingrained. And look,
and you know what Chris said to me, though? And he looks at me and goes, yeah, I never wanted to do it. And then I said to him last night after the game, I said, for a dude who never wanted to do this, you did a heck of a job, man.
But here's the thing, Wes and Chris, I mean, they live in the football facility. They know they've known these guys since they were in 10th grade. They've watched their, high school games and high school tapes. They know them better than anybody else, so I can't think of anybody to better give an analysis of Mazio Bennett, who we have just seen get on campus like the way Chris did. So I thought he did an incredible job. And like I said, Chris Miller doing a good job on the play-by-play, which, by the way, we're all critical of announcers, on TV and stuff like that. Play-by-play is hard. Play-by-play is not an easy thing to do. I did it in college. It was not easy.
I'm going to tell you, I did it. I've done it a couple different times on and off in my life. It's really hard to do.
Yes.
I mean, remember, these guys doing it have spotters.
Yeah.
This thing called spotters. And they're in your ear letting you know if you miss, like they help you like a tackle made by 44. Johnson made that play. They're in your ear helping you, so you sound like you see everything, right?
I used to call, there's a school right up the street from Georgia. It's Clark Central High School. I used to do their basketball games by myself, sitting at the very top of the gym. I didn't have a spotter. I didn't have any live stats. Half the time, I didn't have a roster from the other team.
I was getting ready to say, the best one I ever did, I was in Boise, and we decided we were going to do a Friday night game of the week. And we had a guy that was going to do play-by-play, but he fell through at the last minute.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, here are our choices, Terry Ford, and Terry Ford. So I went out and did, and I hadn't done play-by-play for a while because I did it when I was in small market radio and I was first starting out.
Right.
When I realized, oh, my God, this is hard.
Yeah.
So I'm out there, and some of these coaches weren't very cooperative.
Oh, no. Trying to get a roster from a high school coach the week of the game is like pulling teeth.
It was crazy. It's like trying to get the codes to shoot off a nuclear warhead. So one game I did, I had no rosters from either team. So I was like, screw this. Okay, we'll do this. Ready? Number 7 in the shotgun. Number 22 behind him. One back. 3 wides. Number 87, number 23, and number 82. 54 snaps to 7. 7 drops back, scans the field, ducks the rush from 54, steps up. Oh, it was awful.
There was once a Buford High School. It's a pretty well-known high school in Georgia, and they had a kid, I forget his name now, but he was committed to Oklahoma State to play basketball, and he was a head taller than everybody else. He stuck out like a sore pink thumb, and he dominated that game. I think he was the only name that I knew. So fortunately, he did most of the heavy lifting for that team, so I called his name a lot. But, yeah, when you don't have anything, and sometimes you get the roster, you look down and be like, well, that's not right. Oh. It says that kid's 5'10". He's clearly 6'7".
It's just the right. I'll never forget. And a couple buddies of mine listened to that, and they were laughing because I said that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You don't want to give me. You don't care enough for me to get the names right of your players.
I will go with the names I'm presented, which are none. So he's 44, he's 32, and he's 21.
That's what I did all game, and I was doing the game by myself.
Sure.
So I'm also trying to do some type of analysis. I'm going, tell you what, 44 is having a heck of a game or what. I had no idea anybody's name. And it was craziness. So to your point of doing the play-by-play, it's not easy, man. And
no,
look,
it's not.
I'm like anybody. There's play-by-play guys we all like more than others, but just it is not an easy gig. It's not just sitting there. You think, okay, you're sitting there describing the action, and that's what you're doing, but it's easier said than done. Let's just put it that way. With all the moving pieces and parts going on during a game, it's not easy at all.
No, not at all.
Thumbs up to Chris Miller. All right, Shane Beamer, discussing the offensive line post-game after the spring game. It was a position, if you're going to still walk away from the spring game, understanding it's practice, understanding there's a long way to go till the ball's kicked off for real against Old Dominion, but if you are concerned what you saw on the offensive line, here's Shane Beamer discussing the O-line after Saturday night's spring game.
Yeah, I think they've made progress. We've been banged up front, Phil, just on the offensive line with some injuries. Josiah, he was out for a couple weeks, and it was hard to obviously get him work because he was out. Marquis was banged up. He got hurt in a couple scrimmages ago and missed some practices. So we just haven't had that continuity like we want to have throughout the spring, all 15 practices. But I feel like this past week, we've been able to get kind of a core group of guys in there, and I feel like since last Saturday, we really committed to running the football last Saturday in the scrimmage, did a good job of it, and then we've continued to develop that run game, pass protection, all that this week as well. So it would have been better, I think, to be honest, if we had been able to just completely stay healthy. But we've done a good enough job and thought they did some good things tonight, particularly that Garnet, group on the offensive line. And when we did the draft, we broke up the offensive lines into 2 9-man teams. So the Garnet team had one offensive line of 9 guys, and then the other one had the black team had another team, and then one of those teams, I guess Marquis was on the black team, I think. You lose your guy that was going to be your starting guard. You lose him in pregame warm-up, so that didn't help the black team offensive line tonight. But overall, like that group. And then one of the best things that will help us is, I think I said it the other day to you guys, but last year we started 2 true freshmen on the offensive line, Tree and Tro, and they didn't even get here until June. And then they're starting SEC games 2 months later. You got Blake Franks, you got Cam Pringle, and you got Josiah Thompson. I just told Cam in the locker room, it'll be so much easier for him when he gets to August. One, he's blocking a pretty good defensive group. And I was at dinner with Cam last night because we have a elite offensive lineman here on campus for an official visit, and Cam was at dinner with us last night. And that's what I was telling Cam, like, we're young on the offensive line. We're old on the defensive line. I mean, you talk about Jules and Kel and Tonka and Boogie and TJ. Those guys have been in college football for some of those guys 5 years now. And then you got freshmen that should still be in high school today, and they're trying to block those guys. And they've done a good job. They've had their moments, and they'll be so much better for it. And our offensive line will be so much better for it that they've gone through spring practice and faced a defense like that each and every day.
I mean, again, if you look at the split of the offensive linemen, the Garnet roster, which that first drive was really good.
Yeah.
You had basically you had Vershawn Lee at center. You had Kamar Bell. You had Torricelli Simpkins, Kason Henry, also Josiah Thompson. That was the crew, and Sidney Fugar. That was the crew you had on Garnet.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel like there's some guys in there that you could see starting against Old Dominion. The other side, and again, remember, Marquis Anderson was hurt. You had Tree. You had Baugh. You had Aaron Parks had one of the best blocks of the night. He blocked his dude like it was almost
like Michael Orr.
Like Michael Orr in Blindside. I was just looking for a dumpster. Looking for a dumpster for him to throw him in. So Parks had a heck of a block. Bubba Franks was on that team as well. Let's see who else. We said Tree and Baugh. So, again, you broke it up.
Yeah.
So, to be fair, before everybody gets all concerned about the O-line, this wasn't like you took the 5 best offensive linemen that you think are going to be your starting offensive line and put them on one team. You didn't do it.
Exactly. And then that offensive line, they had to start the game on the Garnet side of things. Yeah, you had 2, maybe 3 guys that projected to be starters with Rashawn Lee and Casey Henry and Torricelli Simpkins, who sounds like he's been doing a really good job. But outside of that, you didn't have your full starting five. So at no point in the night did you say, okay, here's our definitive 5 starters on the offensive line playing together, which, again, when we talk about that offensive line, that unity, that uniformity matters so much. And playing together, having those reps next to each other matters a ton. And that's why it's really hard to be super down the offensive line coming away from this game, because you don't know for sure how good or bad they're going to be.
Yeah, and the defensive front's filled with experienced guys for the most part. And yeah, you have some freshmen sprinkled in there with Stewart and Johnson and Gregory, but you have a lot of guys who have been playing a lot of college football. And look, I understand after last year, when something is not good in any walk of life,
yeah,
and you're expecting it to get better, when you see it for the first time since you haven't seen it when it wasn't good, and it's not what you're hoping, where do you walk away? You're not thinking logically, right? You go, it still sucks.
Well, for one, you exited this game without injuring one of your projected starters like you had a season ago, so you're doing better in that regard.
You're already ahead of the game.
That's right.
And the depth here again to find those 5, I think, is much better than you had last year. All right, we'll get back in here. The NFL draft is coming up this weekend, so we'll get into that. And I got a really cool play-by-play story that was texted me. I'll share with you. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina, right here on the game. Football, sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Terry Ford Tyler had the halftime show. No, the football is sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Our show is sponsored by the Men's Clinic.
There you go.
There we go. I'll get it together. NFL draft coming up this weekend. Again, I'm a draft dork. I love the draft. I like all drafts. There are times I've sat and watched some of the NHL draft, even though I don't know pretty much hardly who anybody is once I get out the top 5 picks. I got no clue.
You're telling me you don't know about the highest rising a guy in the Canadian Junior League? I
can't tell you about the best defenseman to come out of Saskatoon. No, I can't. Now, the Major League Baseball draft I know more of because, again, I pay more attention to the baseball draft, even though, again, most people go seriously.
You tell me you don't know about the hottest 16-year-old hockey prospect out of Denmark?
No.
Call yourself a sports analyst.
I suck. Yes, I do. So, NFL draft is coming up, and there's a new mock, a 7-round mock by Jason Reed we'll get to in a minute. Spencer Rattler still going in the 3rd round, but a very interesting place. And Xavier Legette in Reed's mock goes in the 2nd round. So we'll get to it. The interesting part of this draft is people think it's either going to start at 3 or 4, truly.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Williams is going to Chicago. The feeling is Jaden Daniels, unless Jaden Daniels shows his distaste for wanting to go to Washington and finds a way to get Washington not to take Jaden Daniels.
There's some smoke there, by the way.
There is smoke there. This draft will start at 3. Now, again, if Washington caves, which they could, even though they got Adam Peters as a GM, guy came from San Francisco, where you have a strong winning culture. And I know that Daniel Snyder is not trolling the building anymore.
Yep.
Still, we've seen this before. The old Baltimore Colts with John Elway. We saw it with the Chargers and Eli Manning. Every now and then, someone caves.
Sure.
If Washington caves and takes Drake May, that would be interesting. But it feels like the draft truly starts at 3. Will New England stay at 3 and take their starting quarterback at 3 if they love it? Well, let's just say Daniels gets taken by Washington.
Right.
Do they like Drake May that much more than J.J. McCarthy? That's the question in New England. If you do, and physically Drake May looks like a quarterback, Drake May is, most scouts value May's high ceiling over J.J. McCarthy. But let's say if you're New England, you don't. Let's say you have them close, and someone gives you a great offer, Minnesota,
right,
to trade up to 3 because they want their shot at a quarterback. And you get some draft capital, you get the Vikings pick, which I still think can get you in the ballpark maybe of J.J. McCarthy if you like McCarthy, or you have the ammo to trade back up to go get McCarthy if you wanted to.
Right.
Do you try to get fancy if you're New England? If you like them both the same, or do you say, you know what, we need a quarterback?
I feel like the Belichick era Patriots would try and go the fancy route, as we've seen them do many times. You got a new head coach, really kind of starting over from scratch. You need help at every single spot, it seems like, especially quarterback. Just get your guy.
To me, I don't overthink the room. I stay at 3 and take my guy. If I like McCarthy more than May, and you want to pull the trigger on that, all right. I mean, look. Here's the thing, Tyler. You've got, especially quarterback. You can't take a quarterback just because we need a quarterback.
Right.
We went over that draft, the Christian Ponder, Blaine Gabbert, Jake Locker draft, where dudes were just reaching for quarterbacks because they needed a quarterback after Cam Newton was taken by Carolina. You got to take the guy you believe in. This is the guy. We've done our interviews. We've watched the tape. We've hung out with his family, his neighbors, his lunch lady from the 3rd grade. We know everything there is to know about him. We've cut him inside out. We put him on a whiteboard. We've had security people following him and hiding in bushes for months. This is our dude.
Yeah.
That's the guy you take. And if you like McCarthy better than May for whatever your reasoning, you pull the trigger on McCarthy.
Sure.
But if May's your guy, you take May at 3. Now the thing gets fun. What's Arizona going to do? Because Arizona, they got I think 6 picks in the top 90.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got draft capital. Do you stay there and take the receiver and Marvin Harrison Jr., which, by the way, you need a number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
You don't have one.
Yep.
You might not have a number 2 receiver either. Do you stay there and take the number 1 receiver on the board, or do you let somebody give you some more draft capital and you trade down to where you're probably going to get one of the 3 receivers?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go with Minnesota again. You have a good shot to get. I think the receiver group is 3 guys are a little bit above the others. In Odunze, Neighbors, and Harrison Jr.
Right.
You still might be able to get one of the 3, but you might be able to trade down and get some more draft capital because you stink. And you need all the draft capital you can get. And you have more of a chance to have a successful draft with more bites of the apple.
I was going to say, I think it boils down to if you think that pick at wide receiver is going to be dynamic enough to seismically shift your offense as a whole.
That's where you got to look at Marvin Harrison Jr., what you think of him.
Yeah, and he might be the only one out of the group that can legitimately say might be that guy. Again, Odunze, Neighbors, there's plenty of good wide receivers in this draft, but are they levels above everybody else like what we think of Harrison Jr.
I think those 3 guys are better than the rest by a bit. Now, do I think Harrison Jr. might be better than Neighbors and Odunze? Yeah, a little bit.
Sure.
I think he's got a little bit. And by the way, his dad was a pretty good teacher.
That helps.
That does help. So, I mean, everything you see and read and you watch and all that other stuff, and I feel like those 3 guys have separated themselves. To that next level, though, it's whoever you like.
Yeah.
It's or if it fits your offense, you know, whatever the case, why you're going to take that guy. And Xavier Legette is in that next level of all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But those 3, I think, have separated themselves a little bit. And if you're Arizona, depending on who wants to dance with you, right?
Right.
That's where you make a move. Here's the other interesting move, though. I saw this because I've looked at way too many mock drafts and my head's going to explode. This one is very interesting. AP, their guy, did a mock draft. The Buffalo Bills trade up to get Arizona's pick at 4 and take Marvin Harrison Jr.
Ooh, man.
They would give up, according to AP, their 28th pick in the first round, 2nd rounder, which is 60th overall, 4th rounder, which is 128 overall, a 5th rounder. Then you ready for this? Also, their 2025 first and 2nd round picks.
Oh, man.
That's a haul.
That is.
Now, let me put you, you're Arizona, you're on the clock. I'm taking that.
I would definitely take that.
I am taking that in a heartbeat.
If I'm Buffalo, which, yes, now that Stephon Diggs is not there anymore, you definitely need that number 1 guy, but are you willing to move a mountain like that for him?
That's Mount Rushmore.
I don't know, man. That's a lot.
That's a lot. So if I got that call, if I'm Arizona, I'm running with the card to Roger Goodell for that trade before they sober up in Buffalo.
Before they realize what they're doing.
It's like somebody walks in and goes, "What are you doing?" So that's when you lock the GM out of your war room.
I was going to say, if you're Arizona, you kind of hold your phone over the receiver like, did they let an intern in the room?
Where's Brandon Bean, the GM of the Bills? Oh, he's in the bathroom.
And everybody's like, take it.
No! I mean, you can't turn that down.
No, you can't. And Buffalo be willing to part with that much? That's a tough question.
How much are you in win now mode? Because remember, you had to do a lot of stuff because you were in cap hell and you had to get out of the cap situation you were in.
Yeah.
So now, because you had to get rid of some guys, and now you're still in win now mode, but you need WR1.
I was gonna say you better win the Super Bowl this year, because if you go into next year without a pick until the 3rd round, man,
you got nothing left.
No,
you're all in, man. And so that's a very interesting trade, you know, in the mock world that the AP threw out. But then at 28, you can still get one of the next level of wide receivers. And all these wide receivers have ability, man.
And that's the thing. This is such a wide receiver heavy class. Even a guy like Legette, who is being projected as a potential early 2nd round guy, is still somebody that can come in and make a big difference on your team.
So very interesting. All right, we'll get back in here. I do have a play-by-play story that I got texted me that I want to get. And also our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100 is coming up. It's a halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach, the Game Network. I just like this tune. There we go. Let's keep going.
By the way, speaking of tunes, I tagged Jay in this. He never saw it or never responded to me on Twitter. Apparently, Fish played at the Sphere in Las Vegas. I don't know if you saw a clip of this, but they had all kinds, because it's like the video board goes all the way around.
It's
so you do
crazy.
some crazy visual effects, and they had like one of the wilder ones I've ever seen. So I imagine Jay's having FOMO of not being there for that one. Oh, I was at the RBC Heritage. I could have been at the Fish concert in Vegas.
I'm staring at a bunch of golfers. What am I doing? Fish is in Vegas.
By the way, Scotty Scheffler, man. Dude's an animal.
How ridiculous is that guy?
Because I was like, he wins the Masters. If he goes and misses the cut at RBC, nobody cares. Like, bro, you've been partying all week. Your wife's 9 months pregnant. Like, I get it. Goes out there like a machine, doesn't miss a beat.
Well, the funniest thing is, like, you know, there are people, you win the Masters, you go to the RBC, you're wearing a hat backwards, you're putting opposite-handed.
Got to keep your sunglasses on.
Exactly.
You know, you haven't gotten any sleep all week.
Teeing off like Happy Gilmore. I mean, and
Your
Scheffler
shoes aren't matching.
isn't wearing shoes one round. But that guy went out there and just, like you said, a machine.
Best in the world.
Yes, he is. At this moment, he's the best golfer in the world. All right, our Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got?
Yeah, Marshall weighs in. We haven't even gotten to this point yet, but he says, I thought Oscar Attaway looked good, and he did. I mean, he was the bell cow back on Saturday because, of course, you don't have Rocket Sanders, and was on the same team with Lenore Sellers. They featured him pretty well, and I thought for the runs that he had a few that he was able to get that second level of defense, looked pretty good.
Now, I'll say this, and let's get to Shane real quick on the running backs because we have that cut. Yeah, cut 8. We'll get to it in a second. I was going to get to Attaway because, and we talked about this on the broadcast, yeah, if you look at his stats, you go 7 rushes, 14 yards, big whoop. But if you watched him, he broke some tackles. He got to the second level. He, you know, it felt like that it was good vision. He made the correct cut, or he read his blocking well. And the numbers aren't wow at all, but I liked what I saw from Oscar Attaway in that short little,
He
taste.
has the shiftiness and elusiveness that you want to see out of a guy like him. And again, he's most likely going to be that second back featured, but he's going to rotate in quite a bit. He's going to be a featured part of this offense, and what we saw out of him in the role that he was asked to be in Saturday night was good.
Tell you, I like DJ Braswell on Saturday night.
He's a guy that we've
The forgotten man.
Not forgotten about, but it's like we're looking at the latest shiny object. Ooh, here comes Rocket Sanders. Here comes Attaway. Like even Jawarn Howell tearing it up at SC State. We just kind of haven't talked about DJ Braswell as much, but he went out there and put together a solid performance on Saturday as well.
Yeah, a nice little 12-yard run. DJ Braswell looked good. And so we want to get his name back out there because, like you said, shiny object over here. All right, here's Shane real quick. His thoughts on the running backs. Cut 8, Tyler.
Yeah, I thought all those guys did well, Mike. You know, Oscar, I just told him, I mean, he had some good runs, some runs early and did some good things, and saw him getting north-south, and really all those guys, Nathan Harris-Wainick and Larry Scott, both guys that are walk-ons, and Chase McCrack and Jawarn Howell. I mean, all those guys got in there and got carries. DJ's a guy that can run. He's got home run ability because of his speed, and, you know, showed some of that ability tonight. He obviously got in there and played some last year as a true freshman, and certainly with his speed, he brings an element to that running back room without a doubt. But again, with all those guys, DJ's included, it's about so much more than just the ball in your hand. It's the pass protection part of it, and it's the catching the ball aspect of it as well. And he had a good night tonight and has to continue to commit to what we want out of that running back position and continue to develop as a player.
Just because Braswell, remember, we talked about, because last year the running back room was so thin, there was a lot of discussion of DJ Braswell, and he had to burn a red shirt because he had to play, even though he really wasn't ready to play.
Sure.
And now, like you said, shiny object. You know, you got Fuller coming in, the freshman. You've got Howell, Jawarn Howell, who had a couple interesting moments running the ball on Saturday, and people think that he has a really bright future. So all of a sudden, you know, DJ Braswell is like, whatever, plus you bring in Attaway. Rocket Sanders will be the starter if he's healthy. Didn't even get to see him. So Braswell's kind of been shuffled off to the side a little bit here early in 2024.
Well, you're in a whole lot better spot with this room than you were a year ago. I'll say that
It's
much.
night and day, and excellent work. I mean, by the coaching staff to get, you know, this running back room full with some depth. And if Sanders is healthy and the offensive line can be solid, that's going to be a nice combination.
Absolutely.
So, But you do. You have some. I mean, again, Attaway was 1B at North Texas State. He knows how to be 1B. You know, Hal's very interesting because what he did, obviously, on a different level at South Carolina State. Plus, you're adding in the freshmen coming in. You have Braswell. We're not even talking about Juju McDowell right now.
No, he's still out injured.
So there's a lot going on here.
By the way, North Texas State, that's a throwback.
Yeah.
They're not North Texas State anymore.
That's right. I did throw back. It's just North Texas. Got rid of the state.
It's like when people say Troy State or Memphis State.
It's gone. No more state.
Gone.
No more state. All gone. I miss state.
Sure.
I like state. All right, we'll get back in here. That's, by the way, football sponsored by our buddies at Atlantic Windows and Doors. Coming up next, what's trending at 2 from Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions on the Halftime Show. Another cool tune. Congos. Like that one. All right. Matter of fact, I know maybe 2 Congos tunes. That's one I like.
I know this one. There's probably another one that I'm not aware is by them.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. One of Congos. Oh, we are. We're just trying to get to here on the halftime show, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We're going to get to the baseball in a minute. I want to circle back to something we didn't. There's a couple things we didn't talk about that I got to get to. Man, I'm falling behind.
There was a lot to unpack from Saturday.
Falling behind, man. I said that the mock draft that Jason Reed put out on ESPN.com, Xavier Legette goes 39th, the Carolina Panthers' second round pick.
Okay.
Reed has Legette going there. I believe it's 83rd in the first round. Spencer Rattler going, ready for this one? To Sean McVay and the Rams. Another good landing spot as well.
Yeah.
Stafford will be around for another year.
Sure.
Maybe 2.
Yeah.
Tops.
I've seen a lot of projections of them getting a quarterback just in general to kind of be the eventual successor to Matt Stafford, but that wouldn't be a bad situation to go to.
Sean McVay can work with some quarterbacks.
Well, he's a
whisperer.
That's right.
Yes, he is. He talks like this all the time.
Coach, you're spitting in my ear, please.
Please back up. You're making me uncomfortable.
Well, we can talk at a normal volume.
You're in my personal space. It's really creeping me out. So 83rd to the Rams, which would be a good landing spot for Spencer Rattler, and Xavier Legette going to Carolina, which I wish that on no one. But guess what?
Yeah.
You get a lot of run.
Yeah.
You get a lot of run in Carolina.
I would say you're going to get a lot of run. You're not going to be too well known across the league. I'll say that much.
And again, look, hopefully now that you've got a guy in there who is open to putting an offense together to fit Bryce Young's skill set and his strengths, hopefully things will go better for Bryce Young in year 2. Because I think that there's just year 1 was lost for a bunch of reasons. All right. Spinning off now, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Baseball. Over the weekend, South Carolina loses 2 out of 3 to Arkansas. Again, one of these. We can sit here again, Tyler, like we have through this season. And no one's saying this is not an excuse. You got to win games.
Sure.
You can't talk about the schedule. You can't talk about this, that, and the other because you're in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And if the schedule's a thing, then, you might want to go to a conference that isn't as difficult.
Right.
So the schedule is the schedule. Everybody's playing this schedule, right?
Yep.
So we got to push that aside and understand it's just really hard in the SEC. But that being said, you lose 2 out of 3 to Arkansas at home. That stinks. Bottom line, it stinks, right?
Yep.
But you did maybe you figured out your starting pitching for the weekend.
That's
hopefully.
One positive to take away from it.
Eli Jones was good.
Mm-hmm.
Roman Kimball before the thumb thing was throwing really well. And Dylan Eskew, gave up 4 runs. Only 1 was earned because the error, Tippett had an error.
It was Ellis. Ellis had the error.
Ellis had the error, I'm sorry. Wrong shortstop. So that opened the floodgates up for that 4-run inning for Arkansas. So maybe you walked away from the weekend getting a better idea of what your starting rotation could be.
Sure. Yeah.
So that feels good.
That feels good. The offense, still some ebbs and flows. I said this coming away from the Florida series where over the course of 3 games in Gainesville, South Carolina left 28 runners on base. Obviously, ended up dropping that series. I said if you do that against Arkansas, guess what? You're going to lose that series too. Guess how many runners they left on base over the course of 3 games over the weekend?
Yeah, and that's the thing about the offense that makes you feel good is maybe Austin Brinling could be your leadoff hitter, or now you could get him some more bats. He got on base all weekend.
He did a good job.
He got picked off twice. It's a little anxious. You can't do that. That's a non-starter. But Austin's got speed. He can steal bags. He stole bags before he came in here on his previous stop. So maybe Brinling can be your leadoff hitter consistently. We'll see. It was a weird weekend offensively. Some guys would step up and have good games and have a rough time. Ethan Petrie, it was look, every hitter's going to have these. You're going to have that 3-game series. You just want to go gargle and get the taste out of your mouth, and that was Petrie's Friday and Saturday against Arkansas. But like you said, offensively, you had moments, but, you got to get more consistent. You just really do. Maybe you walked away from this weekend with a weekend starting rotation.
Yeah.
But you lost 2 out of 3, and that's unacceptable, and it's always going to be unacceptable, no matter what you say. Close. There's wins and losses, right, Tyler? There's not wins, losses, and close losses.
Yeah, and the one thing that's really frustrating, not just because nobody's won the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway, but you walk away another weekend where you don't have a single hit with the bases loaded. You were 0 for 6 a week ago at Florida. You were 0 for 5 this past weekend against Arkansas, including twice in that tight first game that you ended up barely losing.
So, I mean, here's the thing about it. You're 9-9. Your RPI's in the top 15. You're playing a ton of quad 1 games. You're 10-11 in your quad 1 games.
Yeah.
Do you want to be better? Yes. No one's trying to put lipstick on anything here. This team's got to get more consistent. The team that swept Vanderbilt's got to show up more.
And that's the weird thing about the series so far this year is, okay, you lose, you lost every series but Vanderbilt. You went down to Gainesville last weekend and got that series win. So you're still sitting at 8-8, which, again, around 500 in conference play is not terrible. But, man, you got Kentucky this weekend. Still got to play Tennessee. Still got to play Georgia. Like, you got to get everything start clicking here over the course of this next couple of months to put yourself in a position for the postseason.
Right. And because, again, maybe you could, hosting's still here.
Sure.
It's not like it's gone, but you can't be losing 2 out of 3 and 2 out of 3 and 2 out of 3. And look, nothing's easy. Again, in the SEC, everybody's playing a hard schedule. Some teams this year have been much better, like A&M or Arkansas or Kentucky, who, by the way, you're going to see this weekend. And maybe you don't have a midweek to deal with, so you can, maybe watch some more tape and get some more reps in some things you need to do at this point in the season that you typically don't get to do, and maybe that'll help. But you just, again, this team, they're not getting run over. They're in all these games. They're competitive, but that's not what people want to hear here.
Right.
I mean, this is South Carolina baseball. And, Mark Kingston even said it. We're going to get some Kingston cuts here in a minute. It's not acceptable to him. It just feels like it's a consistency thing, Tyler, more than anything. We see the positive stuff that's going to help you win a bunch of games. You just got to see more of it. Here's Kingston, cut 28, Tyler. We're close, but not over the hump yet.
I don't know how you could play any closer than that. 18 innings today. Both teams scored 12 runs. Both teams did a lot of good things. That's the number 2 ranked team in the country. So we're toe-to-toe. Disappointed we didn't win the series again, but I just think it shows how close we are, and that was my message to the team, that we're close. But these top 5 teams we're playing, we got to keep working to get over that little hump there so that we're a top 5 team.
And it's just
you're right there.
You're right over the hump.
It's within your grasp. And again, you're at 500 in conference play, halfway through conference play at this point in time, so you're not in a bad position by any means, but you got to, and again, you did figure out the starting pitching, hopefully, coming away from this weekend, but you got to just get everything on the same page, get the offense where it needs to be from top to bottom. Obviously, you've dealt with some injuries this weekend, which certainly didn't help, but you just got to get everything clicking over the course of this last month of the regular season to end on a strong note, put yourself in position to potentially host a regional and see how far you can go.
Now, to be fair, you faced some good starting pitching.
You did. And again, you and your starting pitching itself was good. We talked about Kimball on Friday night before he had the blister issue. So you were in a one-run game going up against one of the best pitchers in all of college baseball. And again, that goes back to when you're just letting things fall through your fingertips that are the difference between winning and losing.
Let's go back to game 1. You lost the game 2-1 where Arkansas scored on a wild pitch and a sacrifice fly.
Yep.
And you lost that game 2-1. Again, don't get me wrong. Hagen Smith is a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. And you saw close up why he's going to be that. But also, Brady Taggart's good. And Mason Molina is above average. You saw some good pitching. Here's Mark Kingston. Let's get cut 32. Tyler, Kingston talking about satisfaction level at this point of the season.
You look at it from different angles. If you look at it on the surface, 9-9 is, we want to be better than that. Everybody in the league does. But I also look at it, and that's one of the top 5 or 6 records in our league right now. And I also look at it as, if you look at the teams we've played compared to other teams and who they've had to play so far, like our schedule is a bear. And our record is what, 27-12, and we've played 21 games against quad 1 teams. And I'm not going to give you our resume right now. It's not that time. But if we had played not one of the best schedules in the country, like, we could easily be 31-8 or whatever the record would be, easily. But we're being tested against the best of the best, and we want to be the best of the best. So we're not where we want to be. We want to be the best team in the country, but we're pretty damn competitive when we play the best in the country, which means we're close. And it just means we need to keep grinding, keep focusing on the details, and keep pushing each other, because we're that close. As I told the team, the ball's at the 1-yard line in terms of where we want to be, but getting the ball across the goal line is the toughest part. So we just got to keep pushing.
See, that's the thing. You and I talked about this last week, Tyler, is, okay, we sit here and say, well, you really haven't had a starting rotation all year. Well, you're really struggling with runners in scoring position and runners on base, and you figured their record's pretty good. I mean, they're 500 in the SEC, but their overall record, when someone says you know what their record is and you say their record out loud, you go, wow, really?
Well, that's why,
Okay.
like learning that they were at least going into this past week in top 15 in the RPI, you go, they are? It's like, well, yeah, by all the measurables, they're playing really good baseball. They just have to be playing against really good competition, as you know we do every single weekend in the SEC, that they're just unfortunately coming up on the short end of the stick more often than not. And again, you're 500 in conference play going into another tough series taking on Kentucky this weekend. So all your goals are still ahead of you. If you get the ship, I don't even say get the ship righted, because you're not that far off, but you clean up those few little things, you could legitimately be one of the best teams in the entire country.
You know, it's like, and I think we had this conversation about, the Gamecock defense last year in football. They weren't winning enough of the big moments.
Sure.
And it feels like the South Carolina baseball team in SEC play against these good teams, they're just not winning the big moments.
Right.
Those moments where, a game's on the line, or this is momentum changing one way or the other, they aren't getting the big play, whether it's a big hit, the big pitch, the big defensive play. They're not getting the big play at the big moment when they need it. And that a lot of close games comes down to that moment, right?
Right.
Because all these games are always, it's these 3 or 4 moments in a game, and they just aren't making the play at the moment that changes, like a 2-1 loss to Arkansas. There's a winnable game.
Sure.
You win that game, you've won 2 out of 3, you feel much better about the whole world.
Right.
You just do. The Alabama series, remember? Lost 2 out of 3 there, could have won 2 out of 3 or pulled the sweep.
Nearly let the third one slip through your fingers as well.
That was a weird series. You could have swept, and you could have got swept.
Yep.
All right, so we'll hear more from Mark Kingston. We'll try to hear from more of Mark Kingston between now and the top of the hour. And today's Monday. I believe old Mark Kingston is with Jay on the postgame show today.
Sounds correct.
All right, so we'll hear from Mark Kingston later on the postgame show. All right, we also have tickets to give away. We're going to do that in just a second, but I got to get this story.
Okay.
Our buddy Justin Hall,
All right.
who has done play-by-play in his life. We were talking about play-by-play and how hard play-by-play is. Here's what Justin said. He goes, Summer League Baseball play-by-play story. It's 100 degrees. Get both starting lineups at 6:30. First pitch is 7:05.
Nice.
And the game ends in a fog delay. So you've got fog. You can't see really well. You got the lineups a half hour before first pitch.
That's awesome.
Go get them. Nice work, Justin. Thanks for the story, my friend. Let's give away, how many pair of Fireflies
I
tickets
got
we got?
2 pairs of tickets to see the Fireflies take on the Augusta Green Jackets tomorrow afternoon, early game out at Segra Park. Let's go callers 4 and 5, 803-404-6100. Win yourself a pair of tickets.
Roll it right now. Give us a call. Head off to see the Fireflies. It's a halftime show. What's trending at 2? We'll continue rolling that. Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll check out a minute of NBA. We haven't done this all year. We don't. NBA playoffs is here. I'm going to put me on the clock. We're going to do our 60 seconds of NBA.
Okay.
We'll have some fun with that coming back because the playoffs are here. Halftime show sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions. The sports world is, it's funny because we got the NFL draft coming up.
Yep.
Obviously, Major League Baseball is still rolling along.
Yep.
And we'll get to a highlight here in a minute. College football, all these spring games are happening in spring practices. SEC land, college baseball's rolling. And then, by the way, the NBA and NHL playoffs kicked in. There were 8 games yesterday, 4 NBA playoff games, 4 NHL playoff games yesterday.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep up with. And both of these leagues have the longest postseason.
Yes.
I think it's ridiculous to have your postseason stretch out for 2 whole months, personally.
That's the thing. It's like another season.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing about the NBA specifically, especially now that you have the play-in tournament. If you're remotely competitive, you're going to make the playoffs. Even if you're not all that great of a team, you can still get a 10 seed and have your chance to play the way in. So, we talk about, the college football playoff expanding makes the regular season matter less. The regular season doesn't mean jack squat in the NBA.
Oh, no.
Get over 500, you're fine.
I mean, if your goal is to just make the postseason, you got teams with losing records in the postseason, in the play-in round.
Who cares about a game in the middle of January? It does not matter.
And that's the sad part of the NBA because the schedule is so long. I mean, same thing happens in baseball now and the NHL because those seasons, we're so used to, because we're such a football culture now for sports. You see these other leagues at 81 games and 162, and you're like, huh?
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people have a football mentality with these sports. You lose the game, everybody goes, oh, my God. No, trust me, there's a lot more.
I was going to say, we have to check on our guy Cloninger every time the Braves lose a game. It's like, buddy, it's mid-April. It's okay.
It's all good. Everything's going to be fine. All right, 60 seconds of the NBA. I should have had you grab a little thing.
All right, shot clock and go.
Do it. All right. NBA's is very simple. The playoffs started yesterday. All the home teams won. Celtics made 100 billion threes. Oklahoma City squeaked by. Denver is going to be fine against the Lakers. I think it's all going to be chalk. In the East, you're going to have the 1 and 2 seeds go up against each other. It's going to be Boston and New York because Giannis is hurt in Milwaukee. Embiid's limping up and down the court in Philadelphia. There's injury issues in the East. I think it's the Knicks and the Celtics. In the West, I go chalk again. I think Denver and Oklahoma City will play in the West. I see a Denver-Boston final. Who's going to win? That part I haven't figured out. That's going to be a heck of a series. Boston always finds a way to soil themselves. Denver used to soil themselves. Now they're the NBA champions. Will it finally be Boston's year? That's a question I might answer tomorrow.
And
that's
there you
it.
go.
There you go.
Good job.
60 seconds of NBA because it's trending now. And we don't talk a ton of it. I love the NBA. I don't talk about it much because, for the most part, here in Columbia, no one cares.
Well, and again, it really doesn't matter until you get to this point anyway.
And now, right, people start paying attention now. All right, getting back really quick to the spring game when obviously we saw Garnet and Black, and Garnet beats the Black in a game that we don't care about the score. We don't care about who wins what. We just care about what people do and what players do and who pops and who doesn't. We talked a little bit about the running backs. Let's get Oscar Attaway in here real quick, Tyler. Let's play this Oscar Attaway, a couple of cuts. First of all, Attaway on the atmosphere of the spring game at Williams-Brice. Remember, Attaway played in North Texas. So, a little bit different spring game atmosphere, I'm guessing, at Willie B. Here's Attaway.
It was crazy. It was a blessing. Like you just said, the fans were amazing. Playing in front of so many people. The other day, I looked up how many people could fit in my old stadium, and it was about 30,000. And today, I went out there and it was 20,000 or something. And I have never played in front of that before, so it was pretty cool. And then when the lights went off and flashing all red, it was amazing, man.
Wait till it's for real, Oscar.
I was going to say, that's only about half a glimpse, if even that. But that is interesting to think about that we kind of lose sight of with these spring games is, man, you got a lot of these guys coming out of high school that have played for maybe a couple thousand people at most, and even some of these guys transferring in from a place like North Texas. Yeah, their stadium held 30,000 people. How many sold-out games do you think he played in front of at his home field? Probably not a whole lot. Now, yes, he probably went into some of these Power 5 venues that were filled to the gills, but they weren't cheering for him. They were booing against him. So to have that much support behind you for once is going to be a different kind of world for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's I remember the first time I saw it 2 years ago. I was told about a home game at
It's
Williams-Brice.
an intimidating environment. It's very underrated in the grand scheme of things because the program itself hasn't achieved the heights of some of these other ones. But man, you go into Willie B on a Saturday night, that is not an easy place to play.
I tell you, matter of fact, I heard about it when I was in Lexington, Kentucky for my 6 months. When I was there, they were talking about, because Kentucky traveled to South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's the game South Carolina had no business losing in Beamer's first season.
Right.
And they were talking about the atmosphere. And I'm watching it on TV going, okay, that seems kind of cool. But then when I got here and I had people, in the building saying, man, until you're there live, standing in it.
You don't know.
You don't know. And I'm going to tell you, it is something. There's no doubt. It's a night game at Willie B is a thing.
Yeah.
So, Oscar, buckle up, dude.
Very cool.
It's massively cool. If you're a player and for the first time to go through that, especially let's not go with and I agree with you on the high school players, they're going to be like, oh, wow. But even if you're like an Attaway or whoever, you think Kyle Kennard saw this at Georgia Tech?
No, I can tell you.
I was getting ready to say, that's why I picked Kyle Kennard. I knew you would
from experience, he did not.
So this thing will be a wow for a lot of these guys. It really will be. All right, here's Oscar Attaway also talking about his performance during the spring game.
I caught the ball well. Probably some things that I need to get better is finishing runs a little bit harder. Also, probably alignment. My coach Coach Blackwell talks about alignment, assignment, and technique. So I need to get my alignment and my assignment and my technique right. So,
I mean, again, catching the. I mean, you're hoping that Attaway can bring you something in the receiving game as well as the run game when he's going to be getting his snaps. Remember, again, we forget, Juju McDowell was your change-up, chess piece, get the guy in space type of receiver out of the backfield. Juju's not available in the spring game because of the collarbone. So he goes in this mix as well as an Attaway. Obviously, Rocket Sanders projected to be the starter when the labrum heals and he's ready to go.
Right.
So we'll circle back to what we talked about before, Tyler. There's so much more depth in the running back room.
There is
so much more.
And outside of Maurice Brown, who caught that one touchdown from Dante Reno, who, again, he's not going to really factor into this running back conversation when the season rolls around. I think Oscar Attaway was the only running back to actually catch a pass on Saturday.
I believe you're correct, sir. Let me double check.
Two receptions for 14 yards.
I think he's the only running back to catch a pass. So, and we will, you know what, we'll try to get, before we get out of here, get to the wide receivers a bit. Because, again, it was very vanilla.
Sure.
It wasn't a lot of, you weren't seeing the grade A passing offense that they hoped to break out. But, there were some moments of some plays guys made. You got to see some guys make some catches you never seen before. So, we'll get into that coming back. And also, it's April 22nd. It's the greatest day in history of the world.
That's right.
Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. That's coming up next on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. Sponsored by the Men's Clinic of South Carolina here on the game. Greatest day in the history of the world, April 22nd, here on the Halftime Show. Get to that in a second. Hey, the craft beer card's back. You can spend $30 a brewery at 12 craft beer locations. Get your phone out. You do 30 times 12, $360 value. Only cost you $79. Just go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals for the craft beer card. All right, greatest day in the history of the world. Here you go. 1876. First official National League Baseball game was played with Boston beating Philadelphia 6-5. I think there are 3 players from that Philadelphia team that are still on the roster. Anyway. Another one way back in the day, because this is interesting. 1914, some dude named Babe Ruth played in his first professional game as a pitcher. He was the winning pitcher, threw a 6-hitter, 6-0. People forget about how good Babe Ruth was as a pitcher before he became a hitter full-time. 1969, Joe Frazier, a knockout winner in 96 seconds to retain the heavyweight championship. Again, 1969. Joe Frazier was an excellent heavyweight. We don't talk about him as much because of Muhammad Ali or even George Foreman. But Joe Frazier, the 3 fights with Muhammad Ali were epic. Epic. 1981 was Fernando Mania, if you remember. Fernando Valenzuela tossed his 3rd shutout in 4 starts. He was a rookie. Valenzuela, it was a storybook year for Fernando Valenzuela in 1981. If my memory serves me, Dodgers won the World Series as well. 1987, NBA grants expansion franchises to Charlotte, Miami, Minnesota, and Orlando. Only one of those franchises has won an NBA championship. Only 2 have made it to the finals. Orlando got to the finals twice and got beat. Of course, Miami won 2 titles with Dwayne Wade and LeBron and Chris Bosh. 1990, first pick in the NFL draft. Illinois quarterback named Jeff George. Yeah. Lots of arm talent, and from what all the reports you read and hear, a miserable human being. Not a great leader. Not a guy that, in today's world, there would be question marks of his attitude as we would break down the draft. And let's see. We'll throw out one more or 2 more. George Foreman beats Alex Schultz in 12 rounds for the heavyweight boxing championship in Las Vegas in 1995. And also in 1995, the NFL draft. First pick overall in the draft. Listen to this. Think about this in today's NFL. Penn State running back Kajana Carter. First pick overall in 1995. Carter blew out his knee. Was never the same player. Kajana Carter. So that's how different the league is now. We talk about running backs even getting drafted in the first round. Totally different world. I'll throw more NFL draft one for you really quick. 2010, Oklahoma quarterback Sam Bradford. First pick overall by the St. Louis Rams. Bradford couldn't stay healthy. He had moments when he was healthy, just couldn't stay healthy. So there's the greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. A couple notes that just have popped up here, headlines, because we were doing what's trending at 2. I just saw this video. We don't have a chance to flip it real quick, but the New York Yankees and Oakland A's, they had an afternoon tilt at Yankee Stadium today. Aaron Boone was thrown out after 1 hitter. Boone was ejected 5 pitches into the game in an unusual sequence caught on the television broadcast. Basically, the leadoff hitter for the A's, Estuary Ruiz, was hit by a pitch on an 0-2 count. The pitch clearly plunked Ruiz on the foot. Yankees dugout thought Ruiz swung at it. Boone, as a result, communicated his disapproval. I'm reading from the article. Home plate umpire Hunter Wendelstedt threw Boone out. Wendelstedt yelled at Boone, "You're not yelling at me. I did what I was supposed to do and checked. I'm looking for him to get hit by the pitch. You got anything else to say, you're gone." 1 pitch later, Boone was ejected. "You're done, you're gone," is what Hunter Wendelstedt said. Boone gets the hook. Now, get this. The television broadcast had its camera on Boone, who was looking away, didn't say a word. Wendelstedt thought Boone said something else, and he threw Boone out. Ready? It comes out that a fan behind Boone was the one complaining. So Wendelstedt says, quote, "I don't care who said it, you're gone." Boone's response, "What do you mean you don't care? I didn't say a word. It was up above our dugout. Bleep, bleep. I didn't say anything. I did not say anything, Hunter. I didn't say a bleeping thing." The broadcast, I mean, again, in that instance, the umpire's got to stop, take a breath. Maybe the TV coverage has something. If you go to the TV coverage and see Boone not even looking back on the field and his mouth isn't moving, then don't you say, okay, you're not ejected, my bad, we corrected the situation. Just saying. Don't you stop and make sure you're going to get it right. I know it's probably not a rule that you can go review an ejection, but in this case, isn't getting it right what matters? Maybe the Yankees are better if you throw Boone out. That's what some Yankee fans are screaming at their radio right now. No, Terry, you're better off without Boone. Just a very weird deal in Major League Baseball. And you should have an ability to check something like that. Because if you're going to throw a manager out of a game and he says he never said a word, and the TV broadcast does show his head's turned, he doesn't say a word, and a fan yelled, you should have the ability to say, you know what? Let's go to the monitor. Let's go to the broadcast, and Rook will go to the monitor, and we'll take a look. And Aaron, if you're right, you'll stay in the game. Give me a minute.
I feel like MLB umpires have the most unwielded power out of any group of officials in all of professional sports. Because the NFL, there's a checks and balances system, and it could be better, certainly, but there are punishments and stuff for not performing up to your task. Feels like in Major League Baseball, I mean, Angel Hernandez got taken to court and was told by a court how bad he was at his job, and he's still out there doing said job, calling balls that are 8 feet off the plate strikes.
It's terrible. By the way, I'm just trying to figure out, is it pictures just of the commissioner, or is it of owners too?
It's the owners, it's CEOs, it's the guy that gets coffee for Rob
He is
Manfred.
so embarrassingly awful at his job, Angel Hernandez. And that's the thing about Major League Baseball umpires. It's just you want to have a meeting with all of them, right? You bring them all in, you shut the door. Hey, want to give you guys a heads up. No one comes to see you.
Well,
no one's here to see you.
And look, that's the problem. It's the arrogance that most of these guys have. That's the problem. Because look, I don't expect you to go out there and get every single call right. No. That's the human element of baseball that we love and hate at the same time. You're going to call balls strikes and you're going to call strikes balls. That's going to happen over the course of a 9-inning game where you're talking about 200 some odd pitches between both teams. It happens. You're going to have some foul balls that get called the wrong way. Again, those are things that you can't review. Obviously, some outs at first base that go the wrong way. Like, that's fine. That's part of the game. But just this arrogance that MLB umpires have about them is what drives people nuts, because it's like they feel so entitled that they are never wrong, and how dare you correct me on something when, again, it was very clearly not Aaron Boone that said this to the umpire.
It's craziness. And that's the stuff that's got to get... And Hunter Wendelstedt, honestly, and this is what should happen to your point. There should be some kind of discipline.
1,000%. Suspensions. I don't know.
You've got to start holding your umpires more accountable than you do in Major League Baseball. I know their unions got a ton of power, but you got to check the umpires down in Major League Baseball.
Some kind of regression system, like, hey, you've been screwing up a lot. Let's send you down to AAA and clean this up a little bit.
How about you go umpire Terry Ford slow pitch softball league for a month?
I was going to say, let's send you down to Little League for a few days and humble you a little bit.
All right, last thing here, and this will be near and dear to your heart.
Yes.
Guess who just announced their retirement?
Yes, I did see that. He did retire with the team that he started with, though.
Matt Ryan.
That's right.
Announced his retirement. And, here's the thing about Matt Ryan. His career quarterback rating is almost 94.
Dude's got Hall of Fame numbers.
His career completion percentage is almost 66%. He threw for over 62,000 yards, almost 7.5 yards an attempt, 381 touchdown passes to 183 picks. All of that's, you know what, here I'll say this now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to say.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Hold that 28-3 lead,
And
put a Super Bowl ring on your finger.
He's a bona fide Hall of Famer.
He's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
But now it's always going to be that question of, yeah, but.
Because you know what? He was playing defense.
Sure. Yeah,
he was calling the plays, right?
Yeah, he was in at DB. You don't remember that part?
Yeah, and he took the play sheet from Kyle Shanahan and said, "No, let's throw the ball, Kyle."
Greatest Atlanta Falcon there's ever been, and I will die on that hill.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm a Matt Ryan guy, and he's been the MVP of the league. You hear those numbers. He was a better quarterback than Eli Manning.
1,000%.
It's not even a conversation. It's not even if you're going to try to have a debate with me, you've been drinking. All right, we'll get back in here. Firehouse subtext the hour 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. All right, coming up in a couple minutes, we'll give you another chance to get a pair of Fireflies tickets. So be ready for that. But first of all, our Firehouse sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got?
Yeah, so John weighs in. It says, Matt Ryan is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Disgusting how Atlanta fans have completely forgot what he did for our team. I would take him in a draft over and over and over. I agree with that. It's unfortunate how many Atlanta fans did not appreciate what they had when he was there. And I said it to many people. I was a Matt Ryan supporter from day number one. You're going to miss him when he's gone. Mm-hmm. And, yes, they have Kirk Cousins now, but these past couple years have been a torture with going back and forth between Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, Taylor Heineke this past year. Mm-hmm. You really don't appreciate what you have till it's not there anymore.
Right. I mean, it felt like everyone always focused on what Matt Ryan couldn't do. Okay,
Sure.
couldn't run. Okay.
So?
Neither could Tom Brady. I mean, Ryan's not as good as Brady, but still Brady couldn't run either. Peyton Manning, last time I checked, did not beat Usain Bolt in the 40.
No.
Or the 50 or the 100. Look, the thing with Matt Ryan to me is, we just read the numbers. The eye test, the dude could sling it. Eli Manning will get in the Hall of Fame before Matt Ryan because Eli Manning had 2 epic playoff runs that ended in Super Bowl rings.
Right.
Eli Manning wasn't better than Matt Ryan. Eli Manning wasn't better than Phillip Rivers.
No.
Problem is Phillip Rivers was not very good in the postseason, and Eli Manning, again, 2 very good postseason runs.
Sure.
We put so much value on the ring. And I know Eli Manning's got some yardage numbers that are up there, but look at the interceptions Eli Manning threw.
Right.
And look at the eye test, not trying to be mean. You watch Eli Manning, you watch Matt Ryan. That's not hard to figure out who's the better quarterback.
No, not at all. But like you said, the wins, the Super Bowl rings, those are so heavily weighed in the discussion.
You know what? I bet you, I wonder how many total times the Giants went to the playoffs with Eli Manning and the Falcons went to the playoffs with Matt Ryan. The difference, both teams went to the playoffs.
Yes.
But the difference is the Giants closed 2 of those with Super Bowl victories.
They did. In fact, in route to their second Super Bowl win, they beat the Falcons 24-2 in the wild
Remember
card
that
game.
that safety?
That was not a fun game.
No,
to
that
watch.
was pretty miserable if I was a Falcons fan.
But again, when you compare those guys head to head, Matt Ryan definitively a better quarterback.
Yeah, but again, it's all about these rings. And Eli Manning will be a first-round Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer.
100%.
That's the way it works. All right, appreciate the text on the Firehouse for our Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100. Let's swing back to the spring game. I wanted to get this in because Brian Thomas had himself a night. For the second straight spring game, Brian Thomas really popped off the edge. Here's Shane Beamer talking about Brian Thomas. We swear.
Yeah, he's been really good. Really, really has been. We gave that most outstanding defensive player award to DQ Smith. And from talking to Coach White and the defensive staff, Brian was someone that was very much in consideration for that too. He's been very consistent. I think Brian's done a great job of understanding where his strengths are. And you look at him, he doesn't look like Dylan Stewart. He doesn't look like Desmond, just from a size standpoint. And that's okay. My dad's in the room, and one of the greatest defensive ends he ever had was a guy by the name of Corey Moore, and he was maybe 6 foot. But he understood leverage, and he was hard to block, and he was a relentless player. And Brian, I think, has done a great job of embracing his skill set, okay, that he's not going to be able to take on offensive tackles and double teams and all that consistently, but understanding how to add pass rush moves to his repertoire and how to disrupt the run game and things like that as well. He's been very consistent and very, very good all spring and excited what he's done. He's certainly taken a step. He was mad at me. He was one of he and Boogie both, where Desmond they were on me about some sacks that they thought I cheated them out of, particularly in the first quarter, particularly on the first drive. Boogie says I missed 3 on the first drive alone, so I'll have to go back and look at the tape to see if I did miss 3 sacks. If so, I apologize. But I talked to a former head coach in the SEC yesterday, and he said no matter what you do, make sure there's offensive fireworks in the spring game, and they score touchdowns. So we tried to put on a good show tonight.
Yeah, it was funny because, that first drive with Sellers and him taking off and using his legs, and they were saying, oh, we would have had a sack. I don't know if you'd have had a sack.
Well, yeah.
You think you would have had a sack. I don't know.
The fact that a sack was constituted by putting your hand on the quarterback,
right,
especially with mobile quarterbacks like him and Robbie Ashford, I don't quite think I'm going to count that.
Yeah, I think those cats can break a couple tackles, Jay.
Now, they got plenty in on Bevel. Poor kid.
Oh, God love him. By the way, did you see Bevel running down Gervais a little while ago being chased?
But he had one nice drive.
He did. Reno had a good drive too.
Yeah, I'll put it this way though, it was so tough to get any gauge on what Bevel could do or not, because we were joking about it earlier. The one time he gets flushed and he's got like 30 dudes chasing him and he almost runs over Beamer.
Right.
That was good stuff.
That was. I just need to get into, because I didn't get to see it live. People were there was some complaining about play calling on Twitter.
Yes.
Really?
After the offensive coordinator said it was going to be as vanilla could be vanilla.
Well, it's not my flavor of vanilla, so unacceptable.
Frozen vanilla past the freshness date of vanilla, but you knew it was vanilla, right? You were told it was going to be vanilla. It's a spring game. All right, so you like experienced people to help you do things to your home, because your home's kind of important to you. You live there. It kind of speaks to who you are, right, in a perfect world. And maybe right now you're going, I don't like who I am in this house right now. Maybe you want new appliances, the fancy, cool stainless steel stuff. I love that stuff, by the way. Maybe you want a tub, maybe a new shower, maybe new fixtures, lighting, whatever. Go to the people who have been doing this for 70 years combined, or over 70 years. Folks at the Nest, 803-978-2025. Nikki, Graham, and the staff there will hook you up, and they'll sit you down, and they'll talk about what you're looking for, your goals, your taste, your desire in your home, and your budget. And they will take and put together a plan to check all 4 boxes and get you happy with your home. The Nest, 1331 Gadsden,